Okay, so what is a coral reef? Is it a rock? Is it a plant? Is it an animal? What is this thing? And to answer that, it's all three. And I know that's really confusing, so in order to like clarify some things, I'm going to attempt to turn myself into a coral reef. I'm gonna do my best here. Wish me luck on this adventure. Okay, so the story of a coral reef starts off with an orgy. And basically, when the mood is right, all of the corals start to release their sperm and eggs into the water. They're like, sperm, eggs, woo! And then a sperm and an egg will eventually join together, and that sperm and egg is gonna produce a coral polyp, which I'm gonna use this tape here to represent the animal part of the coral. Okay, so this is a coral polyp, and I'm sorry I don't have a better thing to represent a coral polyp. I will put a picture here to show you what they actually look like. Okay, so this is the animal part of the coral, and basically it's swimming along in the water column, and then it's like, ooh, that's some good real estate on that rock. I'm gonna settle here. Okay, so the animal settles on this rock, and because corals are asexual as well, and they're like me, and they're like, I don't need a man, I'm just gonna keep reproducing clones of myself because I'm such a vibe. And so they start making clones of themselves. So each coral polyp is recreating versions of themselves, and they're translucent in color, and they're very teeny tiny. So this is the animal part of the coral, and because it's an animal like me and you in the kingdom Animalia, they have to eat for their energy, they have sex, they fight, they do all the things. So now we have a bunch of little mini-me's of coral polyps all over each other. A bunch of little coral mini-me's. Okay. Now that the coral polyps have cloned themselves, you see, you get it? We are a bunch of coral polyps, okay? We are animals. Just like the humans, we are animals. Now, bring in part 2 of the coral reefs. Part rock. Okay, so this is another really cool thing about the corals. Now, what these animals can do, it's pretty cool. They can take calcium ions and carbonate ions, which are like these ions floating in the ocean. They can take them through their mouth, in their stomach, and through a bunch of processes, they make a calcium carbonate skeleton, which is why you see the white part of coral reefs, okay? This is calcium carbonate. That's what these little animals built over time, okay? So they're creating calcium carbonate. They're like, oh, we want to make our own skeleton. And so they start making their own little skeleton, and they build this structure over time. So they can make about ½ inch to 1 inch of calcium carbonate a year. If we're looking at this coral as an example, this coral, I'm gonna give it 4 inches. Okay, we're gonna girl math this, say that this coral was growing really fast and making this calcium carbonate skeleton about 1 inch a year. So this coral in girl math is about 4 years old, okay? So they start making this calcium carbonate underneath themselves as their structure. By the way, my name is Rachel, and I am a marine biologist, so you can trust what I'm saying. So coral reefs are considered rainforests of the sea, and what I mean by that is they only make up like 1% of the ocean floor, yet they support like 25% of marine, oh, there goes my coral polyp, 25% of marine animals, which is a big deal, okay? And coral reefs are also considered canaries of the coal mine. And you might be like, girl, what in the carnations of canaries of the coal mine? And so historically, back in the day, they used to use canaries. Canaries? Yes, canaries. They would send these canaries into the coal mines to see if there was any toxic gases in the coal mine. So if the canary got sick or died, the humans would know it's not a hospitable environment to go into the coal mine. And so that's why I'm using this analogy for the coral reef. Coral reefs are so sensitive, and if the coral reefs start dying, this is a good indication of the health of our ocean. So if the corals are not doing good, our oceans aren't doing good. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so now we have the animal, and then we have the rock. And now you might be like, well, how are coral reefs colorful? And I'd be like, I thought you would never ask. So coral reefs get their color from zooxanthellae. They're spelled really weird. This is a zooxanthellae. Bring in the plant part of the coral. Zooxanthellae, they're like microscopic algae that are in the ocean, and they're like meow, 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 and they come up to a coral reef and they're like, oh, this looks like a fun place to live. And the zooxanthellae is like, hey coral, can I live inside of you? And the coral's like, what are you gonna do for me? And the zooxanthellae is like, I'm gonna give you energy to live. And so the coral's like, yeah, sure, come on in. And so they have a symbiotic relationship with the zooxanthellae. So this is what's giving the coral reef their color. Zooxanthellae algae are like plants. They are a plant, an underwater plant. Plants, unlike animals like me and you, they get their energy from the sun. So they don't need to eat food for their energy. They can just sit in the sun and get their energy. So the corals were really smart, and they were like, oh man, let's optimize on this, bro. Why don't you come live in here and give me some energy? So the zooxanthellae are photosynthesizing for the coral reef and giving the coral reef a lot of their energy. In fact, they account for like 90% of the coral's energy. So the zooxanthellae are doing a lot of work for the corals, so they can kind of just chill. The zooxanthellae don't really want to stay in the coral. All right, so now we've got this awesome symbiotic relationship going on here. So we've got the animals, the coral polyps, we've got the plant, the zooxanthellae, the algae, and then we've got the coral making their calcium carbonate structure. Now enter global warming, and I know that's a triggering word for a lot of people, but let's just pretend it's real, because it is. And unless you've traveled the world diving coral reefs and seen for yourself how they're all dying, don't at me, bro, okay? So now enter global warming. As we know, the ocean's getting really, really hot. And once the ocean starts getting really hot, the zooxanthellae are like, bro, it's too hot up in here, so we're gonna bounce, and then they start to leave, okay? So the zooxanthellae start to leave, and the coral starts to lose its color. Then the coral starts to die, because it's like, I don't have the energy anymore. Without you, zooxanthellae, I can't. I literally can't. So that's one issue that the coral reef is dealing with, among other things, and I won't overwhelm you with everything. And now we have part 2 of the story. Us humans, we like to drive our cars and ride in airplanes, and guess what those things use? Fossil fuels. And those fossil fuels put out CO2. And guess what is a great absorber of CO2? The ocean. So the ocean starts absorbing all of this CO2, and H2O and CO2, so H2O, water, and CO2 react to form carbonic acid. And guess what else has carbonic acid and CO2 in it? Ocean acidification. Okay, so if you're a degenerate like me, you know exactly where this is going. All right, so we got a lot of CO2, we got a lot of carbonic acid. Ooh, oh, it's getting really acidic in here. Oh my God. It's really acidic. Okay. So this doesn't really go according to plan, but basically, the zooxanthellae are like, yo, this is not a hospitable environment. We're out. We are out. And then now that the ocean's getting too acidic, the coral reefs are no longer able to produce their calcium carbonate, because carbonate is basic and acid is gonna destroy the basic components of the coral reef, and then they die, and then they get stressed. And then we no longer have a pretty coral reef. And that's what's left. So I tell you guys all of this because coral reefs really need our help, and I hope in some way this helped you really understand what a coral reef is and make you care about them as much as I do, because I wouldn't do this stupid shit unless I really cared. So make sure you vote for people who are caring about saving our oceans. I'm out.